but we ended up changing our tutorial schedule dramatically. And what it basically meant was the teacher tutorials were a little bit smaller. And what we addressed, what we call mandatory tutorials, okay? And what that meant was if a kid failed a class, a math class, they were in a computer lab for 1 hour a week working on a Sen Math, and then they went to their teacher for 30 minutes a week. And if they needed a little bit more time, if they failed a little bit more, or they weren't progressing, we would probably give them 2 computer lab times with a Sen Math. Um, and what was happening is each week, each 6 weeks, we would call parents. Between the counselors and myself, we would call, split up the kids, and call the parents and give them a letter with their tutorial schedule that said, you know, your kid has tutorials on Monday and Tuesday till 5. Um, they have it with their teacher on Thursday afternoon till 4:20, 4:30. But we always ended that, you know, when we talk to the parents, we'd always say, you know, we're trying to help your child do well and excel in math, and we just need your help. And basically what we tell them at that point is we needed your help by making sure they were at school and that they were going to stay till 5 o'clock. When you say it like that, it really takes everything off of the parents' hands, except for the fact they got to get somebody there to pick up the kid. Um, every day that we were in there, we had about 50 to 60 students in the math labs with 1 to 4 adults, and we use index cards just to kind of help, because you know the dynamics of a classroom setting, just where the kids seat in that class, or where they sit in that class, is can make or break a classroom just by making them sit a certain way. I found out what worked best for me in that group, just because a lot of those students are very distractible, is I would do, you know, boy girl order, and after a while they got used to it. They didn't even ask me. They just knew we had to sit in boy girl order, and we sat there and they got a lot of work done. And so we just did things like that, and the index cards just kind of helped me to place the kids in their room. And I mentioned that because that was a very important part in getting the kids to work in there. The adults that were in there were myself, an assistant principal, usually an aide. Rarely there was a math teacher in there, because I had the math teachers doing, you know, on grade level tutorials. And so we did those tutorials from Monday through Thursday, no Fridays, from 3:50 to 5 o'clock. And then later on, we added Saturday school for kids that needed attendance credit. And so we ended up having students use Ascend Math in there as well. The math teachers were sold on it, and so what I ended up doing the second year at Fort Stockton Middle School was I scheduled students during the school day. We went from an 8-period day to a 9-period day, and we sold it on the fact of we were allowing teachers to have fewer kids in their class, and it allowed me to make an extra class, which is this class, the what I call the Ascend Math class, and it was 47-minute periods, and we started class at 8 o'clock to 3:45, and we had 3 hours. The kids were in there every day. We had 8 periods a day, because I had to give the lady a lunch period, and it was an aide, a pretty receptive aide, paraprofessional that could help us out in that room. And what the kids had to do was they had to get on that Ascend Math program for 42 minutes a day, which was about 210 minutes a week, which came out to 3 hours and 30 minutes. And so I kind of gave them, you know, we had 47 minutes, but I gave them 5 minutes because I thought, well, they may kind of space out a little bit and what have you. So nevertheless, they were in there working on that program. Well, the other thing that came into play was I needed a classroom, and I needed a mini computer lab that had about 20 to 25 computers in there. I had to address the electricity, I had to address the internet, and all of this was done in the summer. I did have to move a teacher's aide in there, and like I said, we went from a 9-period day with 8 class periods, 20 computers, 1 lab printer, and that allowed me to possibly put about 160 kids in there a day. And that was their schedule. Like if they had second period Ascend Math class, they went to that class every day within the school day. Plus, they went to their math class. So the whole idea was that their math teacher had to teach at grade level, and that the Ascend Math program, with the instructional components and the testing and the remediation that it would do, would slowly bring those kids' math gaps we would basically close the gaps of where the kid was at, bringing them up to grade level, and then teaching at grade level. And so that was the, we just talked about that with math teachers, and like I said, I kept telling teachers, you have to teach at grade level. If you don't, our kids are not going to know. They're going to do worse on that test. And let the Ascend Math program bring those kids up. And as ironically as it may sound, the teachers could tell which kids were in there.